we're going to use, we're going to use this mic. Tonight's Good Friday service will take us on a journey to the cross. Through prayer, scripture, dramatic readings, and music, we will journey with Jesus and his friends from the moment of Jesus' arrest to his last breath.
Tonight, we will hear from Pontius Pilate, the governor who sealed Jesus' fate. Simon Peter, the disciple who denied ever knowing Jesus. Salome, one of the women who followed Jesus to the very end. And Mary, Jesus' mother.
In these reflections and through the words of the gospel writers, we will encounter the mystery of Good Friday, the day when Jesus, Savior of the world, died on a cross. At the end of the service, you'll be asked to depart in silence, and there will be a screen displayed with a reminder to do so. For now, let us begin our Good Friday service by singing together. And for all our hymns tonight, you are invited to sit or to stand, whatever is most worshipful for you.
What wondrous love is this, O my soul, O my soul? What wondrous love is this, O my soul? What wondrous love is this that caused the Lord of bliss to bear the dreadful curse for my soul, to bear the dreadful curse for my soul. When I was sinking down, sinking down, sinking down, when I was sinking down, sinking down, when I was sinking down beneath God's righteous throne, Christ laid aside his crown for my soul, for my soul. Christ laid aside his crown for my soul.
Then Pilate took Jesus and had him flogged. And the soldiers wove a crown of thorns and put it on his head, and they dressed him in a purple robe. They kept coming up to him, saying, "Hail, King of the Jews!" and striking him on the face. When the chief priests and the police saw him, they shouted, "Crucify him! Crucify him!" Pilate said to them, "Take him yourselves and crucify him. I find no case against him." The Jews answered him, "We have a law, and according to that law, he ought to die, because he has claimed to be the Son of God." Now when Pilate heard this, he was more afraid than ever. He entered his headquarters again and asked Jesus, "Where are you from?" But Jesus gave him no answer. Pilate therefore said to him, "Do you refuse to speak to me? Do you not know that I have power to release you and power to crucify you?" Jesus answered him, "You would have no power over me unless it had been given you from above. Therefore, the one who handed me over to you is guilty of a greater sin." From then on, Pilate tried to release him, but the Jews cried out. On the day of preparation for the Passover at about noon, Pilate said to the Jews, "Here is your king." They cried out again, "Away with him! Away with him! Crucify him!" Pilate asked them, "Shall I crucify your king?" The chief priests answered, "We have no king but the emperor." Then he handed him over to them to be crucified. So they took Jesus, and carrying the cross by himself, he went out to what is called the place of the skull, which in Hebrew is called Golgotha. There they crucified him, and with him 2 others, one on either side, with Jesus in between them. Pilate also had an inscription written and put on the cross. It read, "Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews." Many of the Jews read this inscription because the place where Jesus was crucified was near the city, and it was written in Hebrew, in Latin, and in Greek. Then the chief priests of the Jews said to Pilate, "Do not write the King of the Jews, but this man said, 'I am the King of the Jews.'" Pilate answered, "What I have written, I have written."
The King of the Jews. When they brought him into my court, I thought it was a joke at first. Of course I did. This man was no king. He was practically homeless. His only supporters were people the rest of the society had no use for. He had no power, no money, no crown, no throne, or even a military. The Jews said that he'd broken a sacred law by claiming to be the Son of God. They were outraged, but I think they were also afraid. The Son of God? That's a big claim. I think it scared them. I know it scared me. But even if Jesus claimed to be the Son of God, I could find no evidence. There was no evidence, again, no proof of any real crime. I thought it would be easy to process him and then release him. I free 1 prisoner each year, and I thought he'd be the popular choice. But the Jews didn't want him. When I asked them who I should free, Jesus or Barabbas, they shouted, "Barabbas, Barabbas," they chanted it. I wanted to set Jesus free. But his own people didn't want him. They chose a criminal, a murderer, and a bandit over this man who seemed so gentle and wise. My hands were tied. I was governor. I served the people. I served Rome. I was here to keep the peace. If I didn't send Jesus to death, to the cross, there would have been no peace. I did what I had to do. I don't know. What if he really was a king? I've known a lot of kings, and most of them aren't worth serving. Maybe that's why I dismissed Jesus at first. He wasn't like any king I'd ever met. But maybe he could have been a different kind of king. Maybe he'd be a king worth serving. The world wasn't ready for it. I wasn't ready for it. The crowds kept screaming for me to crucify Jesus. So I did. I took out a bowl and I washed my hands and I said, "This man's blood is not on my hands. It's on your heads." Did you know my wife had a dream about him? She begged me to save Jesus. But now that I'd given the order to send him to the cross, I'm the one with the dreams. I dreamed that my hands are covered with blood, and it doesn't matter what I said. I gave the order. He died by my word. So no matter how many times I scrubbed them, awake or asleep, I never feel clean. I send prisoners to their deaths every day. But this case felt different. I can't shake the guilt. And every day I ask myself, what if Jesus was really the king we were all waiting for?
Now Peter was sitting outside in the courtyard. A servant girl came up to him and said, "You were also with Jesus the Galilean." But he denied it before all of them, saying, "I do not know what you are talking about." When he went out to the porch, another servant girl saw him and said to the bystanders, "This man was with Jesus of Nazareth." Again he denied it with an oath, "I do not know the man." After a little while, the bystanders came up and said to Peter, "Certainly, you are also one of them, for your accent betrays you." Then he began to curse and he swore an oath, "I do not know the man." At that moment, the cock crowed. Then Peter remembered what Jesus had said, "Before the cock crows, you will deny me 3 times." And he went out and wept bitterly.
Jesus warned me I would deny him 3 times. I couldn't believe it then. And now, well, I guess I still can't. You know, I've always been the loud one, the outspoken disciple, the dramatic one. You know, I'm the guy who jumped out of the boat and tried to walk on the lake. And whenever Jesus would tell a new parable and the other disciples would be scratching their heads, I'd ask questions and get him to explain it so I could understand. Now I know my mouth, it always gets me into trouble, like when I said, "Oh, we should go up on the mountain and sit with Jesus and Elijah and Elisha." And when I tried to keep the children from coming to Jesus. But I was the first one to call him Messiah. I jumped up and shouted and cried out, "You are the living Son of the living God." I meant every word. There was no fear in me then. So what happened? Why did today? I mean, when it really mattered, when he needed me, why did I falter? Why did I pretend I didn't even know him? I mean, thousands of people have seen me with Jesus. Everyone knows I am one of his disciples. So why couldn't I admit it? I lied 3 times in the space of a few hours. Judas betrayed Jesus for a sack of coins, but I betrayed him too and did it for free, for nothing. No bribe, no sack of coins. I did it to protect my own skin. I was afraid. I was embarrassed. I didn't want to get arrested. I don't know. I guess all my fear just caught up with me tonight. It was like sinking into the stormy waves all over again, but Jesus was not there to catch me tonight. This time I was alone. And I left him alone. My teacher is in a cell, and I'm here. I mean, I should be with him, standing up for him, but I cannot make myself get up and go to him. I'm still afraid. I'm still afraid of being recognized, and I'm horrified that Jesus was right. Huh? He was right about everything. If he knew that I would deny him, me, the most outspoken, the favorite disciple, then all those times he predicted his death, he must have been right about that too. I thought we'd had more time. I thought the whole world was about to change. Those dreams are dead. Soon he will be too. He's not coming back.
When it was noon, darkness came over the whole land until 3 p.m. At 3 o'clock, Jesus cried out with a loud voice, my God, why have you forsaken me?" When some of the bystanders heard it, they said, "Listen, he's calling for Elijah." And someone ran, filled a sponge with sour wine, put it on a stick, and gave it to him to drink, saying, "Wait, and let's see whether Elijah will come and take him down." Then Jesus gave a loud cry and breathed his last. And the curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. Now when the centurion who stood facing him saw that in this way he breathed his last, he said, "Truly, this was God's Son." There were also some women looking on from a distance. Among them were Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of James the younger, and Salome. They used to follow him, and they provided for him when he was in Galilee. And there were many other women who had come up with him to Jerusalem. And when all the crowds who had gathered there for this spectacle saw what had taken place, they returned home, beating their breasts. But all his acquaintances, including the women who had followed him all the way from Galilee, they stayed and they stood at a distance watching these things.
After everyone else left, even after Jesus' body hung limp on the cross, I stayed. I've followed Jesus since the beginning. I've watched the blind open their eyes for the first time. I've eaten fish and bread from overflowing baskets. I've heard every one of his parables at least twice. I've cooked more meals for Jesus and his followers than I can count. History won't remember my name, but they'll remember him. And I'll remember that I was there at the beginning and at the end. I was faithful. I don't need my deeds recorded in the history books or any of the letters that will surely spread around the world telling what happened here. I just need Jesus. I need to know that the last 3 years of my life and all of my hope for the future wasn't for nothing. After Jesus gasped for the last time, a terrible silence fell. A centurion trembled and said, "Truly, this man was God's son." Yesterday, I would have agreed, but now I'm not so sure. It was almost quiet as Jesus died. Not at first. At first, a mocking laughter was so loud that my ears ached. But as the hours went on and the crowd grew bored and wandered home, it was quiet. I think the quiet was worse. I wanted Jesus to fight. I wanted him to cry out and explain himself or perform a miracle to reveal himself. That was when the quiet started to mock me. If Jesus wouldn't cry out, maybe I should. But I just stood there frozen while tears streamed down my face. I wanted to scream, but at least I was there. Where were the disciples? Where were those hot-headed young men now? They're so good at making a fuss. Where were they now when Jesus really needed them? Where were the angels? Why weren't they ripping a hole in the sky to come down and save him? And why was God silent today of all days? If there was ever a day to break the silence and speak into our world, today was the day. But it was quiet. And all I could hear was the ragged breathing of my friend. He died like any other human. He just slipped away. He's gone, but I'm still here. I stayed when so many others ran away. I stayed when others couldn't even bear to show up. I'll walk with him one last time. I'll see him to his final resting place and somehow find the strength to say goodbye when the stone rolls into place over his tomb. I can't believe this is happening. We thought he was the Son of God, but gods don't die, do they?
Were you there
when the angel first told me that I would bear a child who would be my people's Messiah. I don't know what I was expecting, but it wasn't this. It wasn't watching my child murdered by the state before he sprouted a single gray hair. And I never expected to hear my son's last agonizing breath. I didn't mean to outlive my son or to stand beneath him while the blood and the life dripped out of him. Out of the boy I gave life to. I was there for his first breath. But I should never have to witness his last. I saw his first miracle. We were at a party, and the host ran out of wine, and Jesus took jugs of well water, and he turned them into the finest wine anyone had tasted. Oh, I was so proud. It was like when the angel first appeared to me when I was a young girl. Oh, I was awed. Oh, I trusted God's word about my son. But yet, seeing him do the impossible, seeing him break the laws of nature, it challenged everything I thought I knew. Oh, he was still my boy. But he was also so much more than that. He was truly from God. He was like a prophet of the old, like Moses or Elijah or Elijah. He was our hope for the future. Oh. His miracles, all the rest of his miracles prove that. So why? Why today did the miracles stop? I mean, how could this young man who raised the dead and cast out legions of demons be trapped by ordinary men and nailed to an ordinary tree? Did he give up? Did his power run out? Did he think he deserved this kind of death? Did I fail him? It's just, I can't understand how we got here. When it was over, when his chest stopped rattling and his eyes didn't flutter back open, the earth shook. Thunder and lightning tore the skies. And I thought, is God as horrified as I am? I mean, maybe it surprised God, this ending too, because the very sun disappeared in the sky. Or maybe this was not what God wanted after all. I always trusted that God was at work in my son's life. But now, my son, our son, is dead. I couldn't do anything but gasped his name through my tears to let him know that he wasn't alone when he died. But God
God could have saved him. God could have stopped it. He could have done something. The sky went dark. But God did nothing to intervene. So I don't know what to think anymore. I don't know if I can believe anymore. Because my son is dead.